Hi, my name is Matt Shimberry. I'm a senior software engineer on the StarCraft 2 team, and I'm here to share with you the improvements that we've made to the StarCraft 2 editor in Heart of the Swarm. So after Wings of Liberty shipped, we talked to the other developers, looked at the editor, combed through the forums, and identified key areas that we wanted to improve. The first area we knew we had to improve was debugging. Now, we often take for granted the fact that we have a team of programmers and access to the game's source code to help us solve any problems we come across, but obviously you in the community don't have that luxury. That's why we spent a lot of time improving our debugging tools. We also spent a lot of time on custom UI. In Heart of the Swarm, we changed our philosophy on the UI engine and now allow you to change any element you can see on the screen. We also added a new UI editor to go along with that. We also knew that we wanted to deliver even more high-quality cutscenes throughout the entire story mode experience. So to go with that, we added a new, cool cutscene editor. And finally, we went through the entire editor as a whole, fixed many bugs, improved workflow, and just made some quality-of-life improvements to make the entire experience easier. So the first thing I want to show you here is the trigger debug window. This may be familiar to some of you out there because we did have a version of this in Wings of Liberty. But we made a lot of cool improvements for Heart of the Swarm. So what tab we have here is a new tab called the Script Local Calls tab, and it shows you every function and every trigger on your map. In this case, we're looking at DOTA. Now, if you look at the top right up here, it's kind of hard to read, but it says total self-only time and total self-children time. These values here are used for performance analysis and basically tell you how long it takes for a function to execute. So I can sort by any of these columns here, and we can see that our two most expensive functions are the Tower AI routine and the Minion AI routine. And we can use this information to help us concentrate our efforts to fix a performance problem. Now, if we wanted to dig deeper to help fix a bug, we can right-click any of these functions here and choose View Script. That brings us to our new Script Calls tab, which is a fully functioning debugger. So like any debugger here, I can place a breakpoint in this while loop, and while paused, I can see our call stack here says that this is a global trigger. Now I can step through line by line, and now let's say that I'm suspicious about this line of code up here for whatever bug I'm trying to solve. What this up here is trying to do is get a list of all heroes in range of the tower. So I can look in the, after executing that line, I can look in the variables watch window down here, and I can see that the value of heroes in range is actually an empty unit group, and hopefully use that information to help us solve whatever bug it is. Next, we have the new UI editor. The UI editor allows you to create and manage all of the new UI in your custom map. In this case, we're still looking at DOTA here. But before I continue, you'll see that I have XML code visible up there. We realized that it's often easier to just work with raw XML instead of hunting through the controls in the editor. So we've added a new XML view to the UI editor and data editor modules. So back to the UI editor, I can right-click any of the frames here and choose Preview Frame. That launches, what happened there? That launches the new UI in the game here. And we can see that on the bottom there, that our upgrade buttons are actually misaligned. So in Wings of Liberty, what I would have had to do there was I would have had to find whichever XML file contains these controls, guess at a new position value, save the file out, and reload the map, and probably redo the entire process again when I get the value wrong. Now in Heart of the Swarm, all I have to do is press the new magic hotkey, and that shows us the new in-game UI editor. So the in-game UI editor lets us inspect any value on the screen here. So I can select one of these upgrade buttons, and I can see that I've got the position value and offset and parent information. I also have on the right-hand side here a property sheet that lets us change any value on this element and immediately see the update. But more commonly what I can do is I can just click and drag any element on the screen to move or resize it. So that's what I'll do here. I just click and drag to move the upgrade buttons to where I want, and that puts it in the new position. When I'm happy, I can choose the Save All Frames button over there on the left, and that sends the values back to the editor, and we can see that our new values have been saved. This really helps with iteration time when working on your new custom UI. So finally, I want to show you the new cutscene editor. But first, I have a cool little video to show you.
We're receiving a transmission from the Bucephalus.
Oh no.
Are you all right, sir? How much did you have to drink tonight, sir?
I don't like this.
I didn't sign up for this.
So hopefully that gives you an idea of just how much fun you can have with the new cutscene editor. So the cutscene editor allows you to create high-quality cutscenes using existing assets. And that part's really important. That last cutscene that we saw had no new assets other than the fun little song, of course. It is a visual, timeline-based editor designed specifically for artists and level designers. So this is what a cutscene looked like in Wings of Liberty. Now, even though I put this slide together, I still have no idea which cutscene this is. Someone was nice enough to put in the comments that Rainer and Tychus are in this scene, but I have no idea what they're saying, how long this cutscene is, where it takes place, or anything like that. That's because we're looking at the trigger editor. Now, the trigger editor is great at editing logic, but it's not great for editing cutscenes. It's not designed for that. For that, we need a cutscene editor. So the cutscene editor allows you to add and manage all of the objects in your scene, including models, cameras, lights, fog, paths, and a whole bunch of other cool objects. It is visually based and lets you see exactly where every object is at any given moment in time, and even lets you edit directly in the viewport. It has an advanced timeline for sequencing all of your events, including animations, sounds, and other events, and even doing some basic keyframe animation. And finally, it shows you exactly what the cutscene will look like when played back in the game. So here's a quick video of the cutscene editor in action. So we have here the DOTA victory cinematic, and there's still some temp art here, so bear with me. And all I have to do here is I can select Arthas and use the manipulator to just move him back and forth. And notice how he interacts with the light there. Now I can also scrub the timeline to see exactly how every object lines up on their paths and their animations. And now let's say I wanted to edit the camera and how it rotates around the scene. I select the yaw property here, add a new key to our new curve editor, and I can move the key around to change the shape of the curve and how it animates. And notice in the background how the camera moves around as I update the shape of the curve. Finally, I can move the cursor back to the beginning of the scene, look through the director camera, which just says to play it back as if it was in the game, and see what my cutscene looks like. Now, one thing that's not obvious here is even though we created the cutscene with Arthas in the first place position, that's not always going to be the case. So using triggers, when the cutscene is playing back in-game, we can substitute different models in different positions based off of gameplay. So finally, I have one more video to share with you here. This next cutscene uses a number of features, including lights such as omni lights, spotlights, environment lights. We use look at to move the characters' heads around and to do some cool bobbing action you'll see. We have attachments to help with positioning. We do animation blending, fading, some cool camera work. Keep in mind as you're watching this that there's absolutely no new assets in here. This is using only assets found in Wings of Liberty, and you can even call this programmer art because I didn't even involve an animator when creating this. So without further ado, I give you a BlizzCon 2011 exclusive sneak peek at the cinematic ending of Heart of the Swarm. Thank you. And now I give you Rick.